Yo, how's it going, folks? It's me again, your boy Tavo, and yeah, it's another lesson on SVG for the web. And on today's lesson, we're going to be learning how to create bubbles. Okay, for those that need a British translation, I'll be saying, well, in today's lesson, we're going to be learning how to create bubbles. So, okay, enough with the buffoonery. Okay, so we're going to learn how to create simple bubbles, and they'll be animated and they'll be basically floating. So you're just going to be creating these bubbles with the click of a button. So I'll show you how that's going to work. Okay, so this is the canvas where you'll be creating your bubbles. Okay. And as soon as they get to the top, then they pop. Get to the top, pop. You see, that even rhymed. I didn't even plan that. So yeah, that's what you're going to be creating for today. So this is something simple but pretty neat, because you know, just with what you're going to learn here, there's a number of things like that you can create. You can create clouds, but anything basically that would float to the sky, you know, smoke, that sort of thing. So yeah, so this will be the lesson for today. So without further ado, let's get started. This is the code, by the way. Okay, so I'm going to be taking you through the steps of how I created all of this, and we'll also be using a new way of creating, or something that I have not taught you before, but that is a requestAnimationFrame. Okay, so yeah, let's get cracking. So I'm just going to close this up, and then we will create a new file where I will then take you through these steps once again. And so I will then create our devs tag, say devs. Okay, I will be using a radial gradient, so I'm gonna create that. Okay, I'll give it an ID of GRD. Okay, I'll set the CX and the CY and the radius values, so I'll say CX is equal to 0.6, and I'll say CY is equal to 0.5, and then I will say R is equal to 58%. Okay, I'll close that. Okay, so now I will create the stops in between. Okay, I'll say offset. First offset will be well, from 0%. So say 0%, and I'll say stop color. That will be equal to magenta. Okay, and what I also want to include here is stop opacity. So I want this one to be opaque. Well, to not be fully opaque, but just slightly. So to be transparent, that is. Okay, so at the stop opacity, and that will be equal to 0.1. Then I'll just copy this guy and add that. It annoys me when it does that. Okay, so these are the values. It's going to be 70% here, and the color will be blue. And then yeah, the stop opacity remains the same. Over here I will not have any transparency, so I will make that 100%, and the color will be white. Okay, so we've got our radial gradient, and the other element that we'll create is a circle. Okay, so I'll create a circle with an ID of circle, and I will give it a CX value of 0 and a CY value of 0 also, and then I will make the radius 25. Okay, I'll say fill, but I will not specify. I will give it a stroke Also, well, not okay. Well, I'll make it white. Sorry, I'll make that white, and the stroke width, I'll make that 0.5. Okay, so now I'm gonna close this guy off and see if everything is in order. Well, so far everything looks good. Okay, so now what we're gonna do next is I'm gonna create my script. Okay, so I'll say this is I'm gonna create my JavaScript code. I'm gonna close this and then open it again so that I can have autocomplete. Like I said, it does this. I don't know why. Okay, so now I'll say I'm gonna create a variable that will reference our SVG. Okay, so I'll say let SVG equal to document dot get element by ID. Okay, and then that ID will be SVG. Okay, and then the other one will be, I'll say let NS. Now the NS stands for namespace, so that will be http www.w3.org/2000/svg. Okay, so what I would like to do now, I'd like to create a click event. And now with this click event, then I will create a use tag, and then I will basically make it reference the circle. Okay, so we're going to be creating circles using a use element. So we've already got a circle that is already predefined. So what we're going to do then is just reference it, and then we'll have also the option of changing the color and all of that. So I will say window dot on click. Okay, say that equals to, let's say function e, and then inside here then I will create our use element. I'll say let use equal to document dot create element and s. Okay, so this is where the namespace comes in handy. So we'll say the name of the tag is element is use. Okay, so once we've created that, then we're going to give it some attributes. I'll say use dot set attribute. Now the reason why we're not just using the use dot attributes dot value is because we don't have any attributes as yet. Okay, so if I log this, you will see that there's nothing yet to be seen. So if I just check out what use logs, it's just the element, but there are no attributes that are actually set. So this is why you need to do all of this manually. Okay, so we'll start with the href. I'll say I want my href to reference our circle. Okay, so that'll be the use of that, and then I'll say use dot. Okay, I can just really copy and paste all of this stuff and just change the values. Okay, so in this case we'll want to create our x, and then we will give it a value of 700. It could be any value, really, it doesn't matter in this instance, because either way we're going to be referencing the client x, where the mouse cursor is, to get the position. So wherever I will click, this is where the positioning of the circle will be. So at the moment I'm just setting these values at random. It doesn't really matter, but just so that you just have something to start with. Okay, and the next one will be ID. So I want to give it an ID, and then I will call it use circle. Okay, so this will be the name of the ID. Okay, and then after that, then I will create a style. I'll say use.style, and then I'll give it a fill. I'll say the fill is equal to white. Okay, the fill will be equal to the gradient that I created. Okay, so we'll say grd. Okay, and then the next one will be use dot style. And this time we're gonna give it a stroke. I'll say stroke is equal to, and then we'll say white. Last one will be the stroke width. I'll say use dot style. I'll say dot stroke width. Okay, so the stroke width will be equal to 5. Okay, so that's what we've got there. And so now that we've set our attributes, what we then want to do is we want to then assign the value of these attributes to our client X and client Y. Okay, so what we're going to do then, we're going to say use dot attributes, because we're not setting them, we've already set them already, so now we just want to change the value. So it gets use dot attribute attributes, and so we say X dot value is equal to E dot client X. Okay, so we'll copy that, and then we'll just change this to Y, say Y, and then we'll say client Y. Okay, so now we've got that covered, so we're just gonna do 2 last steps. What we want to do is then we'll want to then append the use element into the SVG, because at the moment it is not inside the SVG, so it will not show. So in order for it to show, then we need to append it. So we'll say SVG dot append child. Okay, so we'll say SVG. No, sorry, not SVG, use. Okay, so that's what we'll be doing there. So basically when I click, then it should create a circle or a bubble. Okay, so let's check that out. Okay, let's close that. Okay, so open Explorer. Okay, let's check it out on our favorite browser. I'll just close this one. Okay, so at the moment I am seeing nothing. One thing that I forgot to do is to give our SVG background. So I'll say style, and I'll say background color. Okay, then I'd like to make that green. Okay, not green, but green. Okay, first of all, I would just want to see. Okay, so that's fine. What is missing here? Okay, I need to give my SVG an ID. So, okay, let me check that. That could be the problem. Okay, so we've got a circle here. If you can see, so it means that it is working, but our circle is in the wrong place. So let me see what I've done wrong here. Okay, my bad. This is actually dumb. What I did is I put this in quotation marks, which is not necessary. So it's supposed to be E dot client, not client Y, but X. Okay. And over here is E dot client, not X, but Y. Okay, so that is my mistake right there. Okay, sometimes I'm just on autopilot. Okay. Okay, so yeah, this is it. As you can see, it's working. We've got our circles. Awesome. Okay, but this stroke is a little too thick, so I need to do something about that. Okay, it's because here I said stroke instead of stroke width. Okay, if I refresh, okay, there, this is our bubble. Okay, so far that's working fine. Okay, so we've got that part covered. So now the next thing that I need to do is then to create our animate function. Okay, so what that's gonna do is that's gonna animate our bubble for us. Okay, so I'll say function, and I'll say animate Okay, so what I want to do here is I'm going to create a for loop that's going to check the child node of the SVG element. Okay, because ultimately what I want to do, I want to go through all the child nodes, and then in there I will look specifically for the use element. So any element that has the name of use, then I will select that, and then afterwards then I will go into the attributes of that element. So I'll first look into the different child nodes, and then I'll look for a specific one which is use. When I find it, then I will check its attributes, and then I will check for the value of its ID. If the ID value checks out, then it will confirm that I've got the right use tag. And then afterwards, then I will go into a specific attribute which is the Y, and then I will animate the value of it. And then afterwards, then I will also create an condition where the bubble will be removed from the SVG element when it is in a certain position. Basically, when it starts to move out of the canvas, when it's no longer visible, then it should be removed, because we don't need it using up memory even when it's not visible. Because if I don't remove it, then all of these bubbles are still kind of animating to infinity even though no one is seeing them. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing there. Okay, so I will start by saying for, now say for of, so I'll just make this I, and then the iterable will be svg.child nodes. Okay, so I'll say svg.child nodes. So these are basically the children of our SVG. And then I'll say in each of them, I want you to look for one with a tag name of use. So I will create a condition. I'll say if, and then I'll say I.tagName is equal to use. Okay, so if any of the tag names are equal to use, then I would like, okay, squash that. So I'm checking to see if there's a use tag, and then once that is confirmed, then I will create another condition, and then I will check to see if this use tag has the ID of circle. Okay, so we will check its value. So I will say if I dot attributes, and I'll say ID, and then I'll say dot value. Okay, so if the value of this ID is equal to use circle, then I would like you to change its Y value. Okay, so I'll say I dot attributes, and I'm going to say Y, and then I want the value of it, and then I will say its value is minus equal 2. Okay, so what that's going to do is basically gonna minus 2 from its value so that it moves up in the Y position. Okay, so now that we've done that, then what we want to do afterwards, inside here we want to call the request animation frame. So we'll say request animation frame. Okay, so this will call animate. Now what this is going to be doing is that each time when this is called, then it will execute all of this code, and then in the end it will call itself again. So this is what will make the loop to keep running. So once it's called, then it's just going to keep calling itself over and over again. It's not going to stop unless if I make it stop. Okay, so that's that. And then outside, then I will call it, and I'll say animate. Okay, so this is where I will call it for the first time, and then it's going to execute, and then it's just going to keep looping around. Okay, so let's confirm if everything is correct. Let's see if I've done all the steps. Okay, I've done the steps, but something is wrong here. Yes, it's this. It's supposed to be attributes, not attribute. So let's go back. Yeah, you see, so now our bubbles are moving. So now we've got an upside down rain of bubbles. Okay, so now that that is working, you can also change the speed. You know, it's up to you. So if you wanted to move a bit faster, you can do that. If you want it to be like a bullet, like a projectile. So that's how you would do it. So if you wanted to create a game or something like that, you know, where you're shooting projectiles, this would be the way to go about it. This is, yeah, that's super fast. Okay, so we'll take it back to, okay, I'll just make it 10 just for the heck of it. Okay, so one thing that we need to do now is to remove it from the canvas once it is not visible anymore. Okay, so at the moment it is animating, but to infinity. So this is all costing us, you know, this is a lot of processing power because all of these bubbles are being animated, but it is expensive and we don't need them anymore because we can't see them. So now we need to remove them from our canvas. Okay, so now that that is done, so we need to create now another condition where we will check where its position is. So I'll say if, and then I'll say I dot attributes, and then we'll say y dot value, and then we'll say if this is small or equal, I'll say 0. Okay, if it's small or equal to 0, then I would like you to remove it. So I'll say I dot remove. Okay, so that's what's going to happen. So when the value of y is small or equal to 0, then it will remove it from the canvas. So let's see what happens. Now I'll make it run slower so that you can see it as it disappears. Okay, so let's refresh that. Okay, so I'll just pop it here, then see as it gets there what happens. You see, it's as if it pops when it gets to the edge of the screen. Look, there it goes. Okay, so now yeah, we've got our bubbles and they animate nicely. You can control the speed. Yeah, so basically this is what I promised and I have delivered. Okay, so now you can play around with this, create bubbles. Yeah, like I said, this can be applied to a lot of things. You know, you can create projectiles, you can create smoke. So this is just a teaser, and you can use this to create whatever cool stuff that you want. So yeah, I think this is it. So I'll just kind of take you through the code again. This is the radial gradient that we used. This is the circle. Okay, so now we created an SVG document. This is what we use to append the objects, and we've got our namespace. We need our namespace in order for us to create a use element. So here we created an event, and then inside this click event, then we create a use element. So each time we click, then this code is executed, we create a new use element, and then it references the circle. So you could do different things to it. You could make it have random colors. For instance, you could find a way of influencing this where you could have random colors for it, or you could even have random colors for your stroke. You can do all kinds of crazy things to it. You know, you can maybe even offset the animation so that each one moves differently. But yeah, it's all up to you what you would like to do. But this is a basic example or basic animation that you can create, and then what you build on top of this is up to you. So this is the sequence, so that is created, and afterwards it's appended, and then this is the animation where it looks through the SVG element, and then it looks for this specific tag with this specific ID, and then afterwards then we animate the Y value, and once that has reached a certain point, when it is 0, then we remove it from the canvas. Okay, so we just pop it out of existence. Okay, so that's that. I'm not going to go any further than this. Too much talking. I think I've done the work. So yeah, much love and peace, my brothers and sisters. Till the next one, I'm out. If you thought this video was good and helpful, please press that like button. For any questions or input, just remember to leave a comment. And if you want to see more videos like this, then subscribe to my channel and I'll keep more stuff coming your way.